We are here at Thrive Well Podcast with extraordinaire in lending, Becky Alley with Capital Mortgage Funding. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Hey, everybody.
All right, well, let's start with an introduction of you. You're Becky Alley. Becky with the good hair.
I am.
So tell us what you do professionally, because you've been doing it for a long time.
Yes, I am on my going on my 20th year in the business. So I am a licensed mortgage originator, multiple states for a national company. I also get to co-host a radio show on 97.1 called The Hardcore Mortgage Show, which is something that I absolutely love to do. I feel like it was something that was manifested into the stars like a long time ago. And I knew I was destined to help people elevate their lives. You just never know what form that's going to take. And it fell in my lap at 21 years old, helping people get into homes. And I've been doing it ever since, especially kind of crazy. And here I am living the dream, making people happy, not making people happy. It's all the same. It's all good. Right?
That's part of changing lives.
For sure. Yep.
You can never, ever dictate the outcome. You can only do the intention.
For sure.
That's it. We can't be attached to it. So I love that. I always talk about we just happen to sell real estate. Yes. That is what we do. But
no one ever was like, I'm going to go to school to be a real estate agent.
And change lives. That's my title.
Yeah. Or mortgage. Everyone always falls into that. And I do feel that narrative needs to change, where it shouldn't be something that people fall into, because more millionaires are made from real estate. And people are trying to get into it without having the proper education. And then you have people that got into the business because it was easy. And those of us that have been around for a really long time know it's not easy. And you can see them from a mile away struggling because no one ever taught them how to fish. They just were expecting things to always fall in the boat for them. And, we have to take them and bring them up, right? So it's like you're on a level, and it's almost like we have to, people like ourselves in the industry as leaders, you have to kind of reach your hand down and pull these people up and make sure that they're properly educated, so that way they are setting the proper expectations for their clients and not giving everyone a bad name.
Yeah. I feel it's not even the skill set that bothers me that much about new folks, old folks. It really doesn't matter, because I think that is dependent on your circumstances, dependent on how you learn, were you in the right environment for it. It's the endurance factor, like the grittiness. And I find that when people lack the ability to see things through, to hang in there and critically problem solve, the willingness behind that, that's the part I have a hard time with.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's what you do for a living. If you're in, yes. Do we have other components of funding and real estate that are not just critical problem solving? Of course. But what we get paid for mainly is making sure that we have the ability to respond to whatever comes up.
Yeah. I'm focusing on that. Even when I'm talking to people, that mental toughness. It is something that people, sometimes you can't be taught. Sometimes you either have it or you don't. And sometimes that mental toughness comes from a less than perfect experience that you had to be resilient in. And a lot of my success has come from that mental toughness, that grit, that grind, that never give up, keep going kind of mentality, because we have to be able to see things that people can't see for themselves. And I was even victim just recently, I was not myself, right? Letting people walk around with their dirty feet in my mind and leaving me in a state that I'm not accustomed to. So I had to kind of just clean my own mind, because I'm not responsible for other people's lack of vision, or not even just professionally, just even personally, where, if they are going to bring you down, you can't associate yourself with that, because I have a job professionally to get people across the finish line and do whatever it takes. And education is free, but sometimes people don't want to hear what you have to say if it's not what they want to hear.
Sure.
I can control everything that I say, but I can't control what you hear. And that is a skill set to be okay with that part of it. It took me some time to get there, because on the professional side of things, you're dealing with people that never thought they could buy a house in their entire life. Sometimes it's the first person in their generations that's ever bought a house. They just never saw it for themselves. And when you can get someone from that generational trauma, like going really deep with it, where they just never saw it, and get them to that point of they can see it through your eyes because you're coaching them and they believe in you. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you're changing lives to that kind of level.
Yeah. And I think, it's one thing, I'm so glad you touched on that, because I think there is some loss for potentially mainly realtors in the industry to understand that the funding side of things, when you're working with a loan officer, it doesn't matter who, where, what, when, but you're working with a loan officer that's helping your buy side client get funded to purchase this home, that is a separate relationship. There are things that client is probably sharing with the LO that the LO cannot share with you. And so I think it would behoove any agents listening right now to understand that there's always two sides to a story. There is most definitely going to be missing components between buyer and realtor and buyer and LO. And it's meant to be that way. You have a fiduciary duty to keep that confidential. And so you can't always share everything.
Right.
And it gets tricky that way. So I think, word to the wise, just realtors and LOs, like, work together. You're both working for the same thing. Let's go back to mental toughness really quickly. So you had said something about mental toughness being born out of experience, which without a doubt, totally agree with you. I also think it is 100% possible to condition mental toughness in anyone. It just requires the person be willing to lean in, be willing to learn new habits, be willing to see something through during that tough moment and not quit. I don't care if it's working out for 6 months or eating broccoli with your dinner. Like, it can be something as simple as that. And listen, like, I don't love broccoli, but I have eaten broccoli every day for the last 6 months.
Yes.
And it's really not, just to be honest, like, it's not fun for anybody. I eat broccoli. So
I don't mind broccoli, everybody. I'm also one of those people that I can eat the same thing over and over and over again because I don't mind it. I love to work out. It comes with, you can't outwork a bad diet. Right. And same with what you're talking about. Your mind can't outwork negative thoughts. You have to, if you're going to condition yourself to have mental toughness, you have to be surrounded by positivity. And some of that's your environment. Sometimes you have to look at your surroundings, personal, professional. I've been victim of being surrounded by the wrong people. And when you're in that flight or flight mindset, it's hard to really function at your highest capacity. So when people say proximity is power, it's because iron sharpens iron. So if you're in a room with people that are smarter than you, working harder than you, you're naturally going to elevate yourself to the next level. And, people say, work smarter, not harder. I don't believe in that, because the people that are going to be the titans in any industry, they already are working smarter, but the separator's who's working harder. You have to do one more. You got to go harder. You got to push yourself to exhaustion, because that's where the rewards are going to be, whether you are trying to work out for the first time, whether you're trying to lose 100 pounds, if you're trying to close someone for the first time as a loan officer, showing your first couple houses, going through your first tough transaction as a rookie real estate agent because you've never experienced it before, And you have to, and that's first of many, and that's where you're going to be that successful agent or loan officer or have those rock hard abs. There's a reason why there's a million, self-help books, and there's a million, I got these abs doing this, this, and this, and I did this. I became a billionaire doing this, this, and this. Well, that's because that worked for them. So you can read all the self-help books, you can do all the fad diets, but at the end of the day, someone else's GPS is not going to get you where you're going. You have to want it, because when they wrote that book that you're reading, they wanted it, and they're sharing it, because when you love something, what's the first thing you do? Share. So the things that we get to keep are the things we give away. So when you have that kind of knowledge and you're sharing it with someone, it only works if they're ready to hear it and it penetrate their soul for sure.
Did y'all feel that? We just went to Becky Alley Church. Well, I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I think what you're talking about is action economy. So regardless of the information you're taking in or the people, even the proximity that you're around, unless you're willing to take action, unless you're willing to go just one step further, like you were talking about, than you ever did before, and create that new habit and have that neuron go off in the brain to say, okay, you did it once, you could do it again.
For sure.
Then anything's possible. Yeah, I love that.
It's you have to constantly be working at it every day. I don't care who you are. I don't care how successful you are. And I don't care if you start tomorrow, you have to want it within you and you can achieve whatever you want.
Agreed. My favorite characteristic in all human beings is their level of willingness. And I love the moment when you can see someone go from reluctant to, okay, I'm willing to go here with you.
Yeah.
It displays so much trust in self, trust in you, trust in their environment. And I think of being in the people experience business, that's that moment where you're like, did everybody see that?
Yes, for sure. And sometimes experience can be a negative thing because you get so stuck in that history of, well, this is how it is and this is how it's always been. And that's why sometimes someone right out the gate can blow someone out of the water that's been doing whatever they've been doing for so long because they don't know any better. All they know is they see what you're doing and they're willing to make the calls that you think you're too good to make. You have to you can't overvalue experience and undervalue being in a state as a first timer rookie mindset. You have to always look at something like it's the first time you're doing it and have that hunger, remember where you came from. And that's always what's allowed me to kind of just push as hard as I do because I work like I got $5 in the bank because I remember what it felt like. I'll never forget what that felt like. And that's what drives me to help people get to the next level.
I love it. Same. It's relishing that rookie mode.
For sure.
I love. Okay, let's talk mortgages.
Yeah.
Let's teach some people out there, or hopefully contribute to their thought process, their thoughts around what's possible for them. What would you say the role of a credit score plays in the possibility of home ownership?
Credit score is everything in some capacity because that's what gets you in the door. You have you have to have at least a 580, at least with us. Some of them will have there are some places out there, maybe we'll go as low as a 500, but I mean, you're talking about hard money at that point, like something crazy. But credit score is everything. And I feel like that's the elusive creature that no one really understands. It's hard to get, it's hard to keep, and it's even harder to get back once you mess it up. There's just no one was ever taught about credit. I was fortunate to have my parents really drill it in at a young age. So I already had credit like at 17.
Wow.
My mom put me as a co-signer. I was going to Cancun for spring break and she gave me my little credit card. And from then on, it was very easy for me to get credit. But just because you have credit, you also have to manage it. And you have to, just because you can go buy something for $10,000 because that's your credit limit, that doesn't mean you do. You have to be very disciplined and use only what you need. But when it comes to credit, it's buying mortgages. That is what you're going to be based on what you can afford. What kind of interest rate you're going to get. Can you qualify for a program that's going to give you down payment assistance if you need it? Do you not need it? And if you're not where you need to be as far as credit worthiness, then we need to get you where you're going to get there. And sometimes it's a quick thing. Sometimes it's a hard thing. Sometimes it's a 6-month action plan. But the very first thing that someone needs to do is allow someone to look at their credit. And there's a lot of, my biggest thing is that I hear is, I don't want you to pull my credit. I don't want it to have this negative impact on my credit score, okay? I'm going to school everybody, okay? A credit inquiry is the most nominal impact on your credit when it comes to mortgages. There's a difference between a mortgage inquiry and a credit card inquiry. You go into Lowe's,
Nordstrom,
oh yes, shopping the best 0% credit card.
You're like, yes, I do want that.
Yeah. Or if you're going and looking at mortgages, they do totally look at that inquiry different. And there's also a 45-day window where you can have your credit pulled by me, have 2 other people look at your credit, and it counts as one inquiry. It's not 2 weeks. Credit Karma is not really what your credit scores are. I think it's great when people have Credit Karma because it does give you an idea of where you're at.
Yeah.
But it's not your true FICO scores that a lender or anyone that's looking at your credit is going to be utilizing. So get the credit pulled, because a lot of times when someone is looking to buy a house, as you know, they start with you first. They look online.
They do.
They call. I'm interested in this house, and then they get in contact with a real estate agent. Depending on what the caliber of that real estate agent is going to be who they're referring the lender to, and then the mortgage process starts. Then they finally look at your credit, and then you're finding out that you had hungry eye syndrome, and you really can't afford the $500,000 house.
Sure,
you're really on like $100,000 level. So the credit score is one of the bigger components when you're trying to get qualified for a mortgage, for sure.
It's one of the things that I think I find so wonderful about the way you practice in lending, which is anyone that comes to you, whether they have bruised credit, beat up credit, great credit, you find a way to take them from A to B, B to C, and make it possible at some point. So like you were just saying, in 6 months, or might be 24 months. But there is a way to repair your credit if you're working with the right people who are going to guide you through that. So
for sure,
I think that's important for people to know, because just like anything in life, when we're bruised or beat up or we have something that we're not as proud of, we tend to hide from it. Yep. And so people will rent for decades upon decades because they don't know how to repair their credit. They're embarrassed about it. They keep bruising it and they don't have the education. So I think that's a great idea, is reaching out to a professional.
The biggest thing that, I'm sorry, like my mind was just on fire there for a second, but one of the biggest home buyer mistakes that I feel is that people, like you're talking about, they don't even try. Because no one wants to fail.
Yeah.
No one wants to be denied something. So they continue down these paths that are no longer serving their lives. And you have to just start the conversations. These are not aggressive conversations. These are not selling conversations. But you need to get the answers to the test. Because when you're talking to a mortgage lender that knows their stuff, they're going to tell you, this is where you're at. This is where you're going to be. What are your goals? And they're going to lay it all out for you. But if you don't have the conversations, then you are going to be that lifetime renter that's hundreds of thousands of dollars into someone else's mortgage. Because as you know, like if you're not paying your own mortgage, you are paying somebody else's.
Yeah. And I think there is a time and a place for that. Like younger folks who are working on other things, that makes sense to me.
Yep.
But I do think it matters who you reach out to, because the advice will be different, just like any professional in any industry. So keep that in mind. And then I think the other question people can ask themselves is, do you have the answer right now in your life, in this exact chapter, to say, I understand my options? Do I know what's possible for me right now, right here, in this credit score, in this moment, with this income? Always good to know.
Yeah.
So reach out to Becky.
Yeah, for sure.
Just do it.
Right here.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think the strategy of, I'd say, that existed very traditionally for a very long time, of paying off your mortgage? How do you feel about that?
I feel like if it suits you, you can do it. If you want to pay off your mortgage, do it. But, the ones that are paying off their mortgages, so that's an interest credit. I'm not a tax advisor. I don't play one here on this podcast, but you can.
Quick note across.
But for me, it would be silly for me to pay my mortgage off when I can, because that's going to be a write-off that I'm now not having because I'm a W-2 employee. And, again, I'm not a CPA, but I do know that the tax code favors the individual contractor. So someone that's a 1099 employee, you can technically write more things off than someone that's a W-2 employee. So for me, that tax deduction puts me in a better position because I have to maneuver my finances a little bit different than someone that might be self-employed. So, it just really is depending on what your goals are. Again, everyone's situation is different. I can't compare my life to your life. The house that you buy is not different than the house that I'm going to buy. Every person is different. So when we are experienced professionals creating experiences for our clients, and we have to be able to see not just in front of us, like 5 minutes down the road, but look up, like where are they seeing themselves in 5 years, and talk about it with them. Get them in the right contact, the right atmosphere with the right people, so that way they can understand, yes, I want to buy this house. I'm going to pay it off in 5 years. Okay, but what does that look like for you?
And what does that do for you?
Yes. Yes. Overall longevity, your finances, what is that going to do for you and not do for you when you're trying to write your taxes?
Yep. I like it.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say today, right now, in this marketplace? Everyone's hearing the headlines. Rates are extremely high. Inflation's up. Inflation's down. What would you tell your stereotypical homeowner, whether it's a first-time home buyer, a move-up buyer, move-down buyer? What are the challenges that they could be facing today?
To be honest with you, it's all about perspective. And, you know, there's a lot of media coverage out there because they don't know what else to talk about. When someone is calling around for mortgages, they don't say, what's your APR? I mean, they will say, what's your APR? But they'll say, what's your rate? What's your rate? What's your rate? What's your rate? But they don't ask about closing costs so much, and people don't even realize that someone can charge you an application fee, and that doesn't count in the APR. And their APR will be the same. So there's so many things. So people just don't know any better but to ask about the rates. And the reality is this, and it's going to be a little bit of a story, not a long one, but first-time home buyer, what's the rate? What's the rate? What's the rate? So we talk about the rates. Rates currently in the market are high 6s, low 7s, depending on what your credit score is. It's the highest they've been in the last 20 years, okay? I've been in the business for 20 years. I've seen the ups and downs. It's cyclical. We are going to see eventually the rates move in a positive fashion when I'm not Miss Cleo. I wish I could be Miss Cleo. She's great. God rest her soul. But we will see a moment when the rates come down.
Yes.
But be that as it may, someone that was having a fit in their mind of, oh my gosh, I can't believe the rate's going to be 6.875, also just recently took out a personal loan for, I think it was 30%. And that 30% personal loan for $35,000 had a payment attached to it of $892. Ouch. They didn't even hesitate on that. But that $892 personal loan that they took out because they got a little bit overextended with their finances and all that other jazz now was affecting the affordability of their mortgage. And at the end of the day, the interest rate of 6.875, that as it suited them at the time that we locked them in, was the most minuscule variant in their overall financial picture. You don't hesitate to take the lease out that you're paying whatever your interest rate is because it's not something that you're owning. You're giving it back. You're driving around someone else's car and giving it back. You don't even think about
They don't even think about it.
$1,000 payment.
Right.
But they are going to trip on themselves over owning their own home for $1,500 while they're paying $1,600 in rent. So my thing is that you have to just shift the narrative, have better open-minded conversations about your future, where you're going. And you don't need to have the $1,000 a month car parked in your landlord's driveway. You need to have a car that you can afford parked in your own driveway. And shifting the narrative, having more deeper conversations about your personal goals, where you're going as a buyer, that is going to take you and your finances to the next level. Because at the end of the day, the individuals that are buying their houses right now, they are going to be locked in to a home that they can afford at that moment in time.
Exactly.
When the moment comes around to refinance, then you can shift that rate down when that moment happens. But the same person that's buying next year, when the rates come down, if let's just say they did, now the housing market the price of the house is going to be more. So you can't outrun it, I should say. So the person that's buying a house now, I feel, in my opinion, is going to be ahead of the game than someone that's buying this time next year, because we're in an appreciating market. We're in a housing crisis. Inventory is not going to get to where it needs to be to offset the number of buyers that are coming in, especially between the 25 and 35 age bracket. That's over 43 million. In that demographic that are now buying homes, and we don't have 43 million homes
in inventory.
No,
we don't.
Do not.
So let's talk about that really quickly. I'm regular Sally out there. Maybe I'm renting. Maybe I'm living at home. Who knows? And I want more information. Where should this person go?
You go to capitalmortgagefunding.com and seek out Becky, Allie, or my team. You can find us on social media. And even if it's not us, you want to make sure that you are with any kind of mortgage lender that's all they do. You don't want, and you can go to banks and things like that, but sometimes you need to make sure you're with the right people and have more than one conversation. And that's okay. So even if it's, the advice that I give someone is free. I'm not here to sell anybody. I'm here to help someone. And
so I'm regular Sally.
Yep.
I call you up. I hear this podcast. I'm intrigued. I believe that you're going to give me information for free. What kind of questions am I asking you?
You're going to want to ask, where do I start? Right? The first thing is, what do you need from me? And you need general information, your name, your birthday, your social, all that stuff. And then you're going to have to provide financial documents. And I'm going to say this right now. I assure you that no mortgage originator will ever ask for a document that they don't need. Okay? That's very rigorous. Getting a mortgage is a big deal. It's most people's biggest investment in their whole entire life. And you have to treat it as such. If you are not there financially, you need to provide the documents so that way we can assess the situation to come up with that. So some of the questions are going to be, you can ask what the rate is. That's the most general term, but what's my payment going to be? What can I afford? How much money do I need for closing? Do I qualify for a down payment assistance? Is there a down payment assistance? I'm not a first-time home buyer. Can I still get assistance? So these are all the questions that I answer that sometimes people even know they need to ask. Because once we extract the general information from first-time home buyers or any buyer, whether it's first-time, second-time investment, I'm literally scraping every program that we have available, which is like make your head explode how much we can do for somebody. But it's finding that unique program for that unique person that's going to get there where they're going to go. How I'm going to get there. There's
in the best way, right? Because there are 6 different ways to get there, but there's only one best way.
Yes.
Right? And I think that is why it matters who you contact, who you work with during this setup process.
Yep.
So one thing I heard, and I just want to throw this out there, is normalizing speaking about finances.
Yes.
Normalizing talking about your income with professionals that need to know that information to help you make a plan.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this kind of knee-jerk reaction, like I'm desperate to buy, I got to do it now.
Yeah.
You can take your time and reach out 6, 12 months in advance just to get educated.
For sure. There's a lot of what I see right now is there is renters that are getting notices from their landlords that the landlord is now going to sell their property. And that person that was renting never really invested in the time for themselves to see what they could ever purchase. So now it's creating that knee-jerk reaction of, I have to get qualified, I have to find a house, and these unrealistic time expectations, and it's creating a lot more of this dramatic kind of experience than it really should be.
Yeah.
You need to give yourself the time, and whether you're renting and you have a year on your lease or 6 months on your lease, start the conversation now, because you can't control what your landlord's going to do, but you can control what you're going to do. Be in control of yourself and get in the driver's seat so that way you're not in that position and you're not scrambling at the last minute to find out that you don't have the credit score to even buy anything. There's a lot that goes into it, and the more you have the conversations and make it okay, like you're saying, normalize it. And the other thing is, a lot of times like buyers, because they deal with the real estate agent more than they see the lender.
Right.
The truth is that, you're buying a house, you're driving around with your real estate agent, you develop this different kind of rapport, and then it's almost like the lender sometimes has this
it's like the bad cop, right?
Yeah, it's like the Wizard of Oz that
I don't know what the hell you guys have been doing out there.
They want my pay stub. That's the last pay stub I'm ever going to send. How dare they ask my pay stub? And naturally, they call their real estate agent and be like, oh my God, that Becky asked me for a pay stub, and page 5 of my bank statement, I'm going to shake an angry fist at the universe because I gave her 1, 2, 3, 4, and page 5 didn't say anything on it. So why does she need it? That collaboration between the lender and the real estate agent and the buyer is key. You have to be a united front, because I almost look at our little buyers as like our little babies, right? They're doing it, especially if they're first time, or they're doing it for the first time, and they're going to tattle because they don't know any better. They're going to
They're frustrated.
Yes, they don't.
And it all just comes from not knowing.
For sure.
Right? They just need to understand. And so again, going back to any agents listening, work together. Everybody being on the same team gets you there far smoother, far faster than trying to pretend like we're all on different teams.
Yeah.
Who's going to win here?
Like that whole mentality is it's old, and it doesn't serve any purpose for anybody. The listing agent versus the buying agent, the lenders in the middle, everyone's fighting. Like, I don't really have transactions like that. I'm always reaching across the aisle to the listing agent to make sure that they know that I'm confidently in control. If there's issues, sometimes they come up, but it's not the issues, it's how you're going to get around them.
Exactly.
And you have to pivot, or else the deal's going to perish. And
That's
people
what we're
come to
paid
me
for.
because they know I can get it done and I have the skill set to do so. But it's also that mental toughness that you have to exude to make sure that people know that, I didn't get here overnight. It was a lot of struggles, but people are going to bet on me more than they're going to bet against me. And that's, it's a blessing. And I'm very privileged to have a lot of amazing people like yourselves around me.
Oh, we're extremely happy to be together in business. Okay, Becky, thank you so much. Wealth of knowledge. We appreciate being partnered with you in business. And if you're a buyer out there, you're an agent out there that wants more information from Becky, how can they get at you fast and furiously?
Okay, I like fast and furious.
Yes.
You can always call me on my cell phone. So it's 734-778-8484. If you're on social, it's Becky Ellie Mortgage. And you can also be a fan of the Hardcore Mortgage Show. So you can find us on the Hardcore Mortgage Show. You can like the Capital Mortgage Funding Facebook page, Becky Ellie Mortgage Facebook page, or you can hit me up on, here Thrive. I know they'll get you guys in contact with me. We're just here to take people to the next level, elevate anyone that wants to be elevated, and any way that I can take someone to the next galaxy, let's freaking go.
Let's go. I love it.